So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, to all of our beautiful European friends. And my name is Debbie Wetzler. I live in the United States now. I live in Colorado in the mountains. Absolutely love it here. And I heard about this technology called redox signaling technology and biochemistry about 10 years ago. And when I was introduced to it, I have to say that, and let me go ahead, I'm sorry, I should have muted people first. Okay. Okay. And we'll have people unmute as they go. But when I first heard about this 10 years ago, I was not in a very good position. I had always owned my own businesses. I had been an interior designer, owned my own business, was very successful. I stepped down to help a man with his children's website, which was also very successful until 2008, when the economy just tanked and he went bankrupt and I was left with nothing coming in and nobody to turn to. So I went through my life savings just trying to save my house and keep my daughter in college. And by the time I found a job, I was way behind, but I found a job as a server. I was working double shifts. You have to work that much as a server, I think, to make that much money, to keep your house and to keep food on the table and to keep everything else. But I got behind in my mortgage. I was finally sent a letter of foreclosure and I didn't know what to do. So what I do is I asked for help from the universe, and I went upstairs with my foreclosure letter in my hands and put out a big plea to the universe to send me something that I could help people with and that would turn around my financial dignity. And before I got out of bed the next morning is when the person who introduced this to me, called Cindy Buck, called me, and she told me about this technology that had saved 3 of her best friends' lives and was a true breakthrough. And so I took a very good look at it. And luckily I was able to call a very good friend of mine who is a molecular biologist from Johns Hopkins. She had done years of research at the National Institutes of Health, which is our biggest research center. And she just confirmed. She almost fell off her chair when I showed her this. And she just said, Debbie, I've been studying these molecules for 17 years. And we've had scientists from around the world come and try to do this. And if you're telling me that somebody was able to stabilize these molecules outside the human body in a bioactive form, then I can tell you this is massive and will change the medical field as you know it. And that's really all it took for me. I completely trusted her. She was the first one to tell me these molecules were small. They would go through the blood-brain barrier, and any of the mental issues that people might have or were having, we would have amazing results with. So I jumped on it. I started telling everybody. I got it on my mother. And since then, we've done a lot of research and we're continuing to do a lot of research. So I'm going to share my screen very quickly with you and just show you one of the studies that was just recently done. It's a genetic study that we did in the United States at Tara Labs. And
excuse me to interrupt, but could you
yes?
Speak a little bit slower maybe?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. So I apologize. And so it was we took this to Torit Labs. They're the labs that do the genetic testing for ancestry. So they're very well known and very established, great lab. And we took them our product and we said, we want to know if this does anything for genetic expression, and genes are what tell the cells what to do. If it doesn't do anything, we want to know. If it does something, we want to know that also. So they virtually gave 10 people on this test nothing. That was their baseline group. They gave 35-year-old men and women, they gave half of them salt water, which we are told many times that we're nothing but salt water. So that was our test. The other half got ASEA, redox signaling molecules. 100% of the people that took the salt water had virtually no change. And 100% of the people who got ASEA had major shifts of up to 31% in genetic expressions, turning on the genes and having them express themselves in a very positive way in 5 big areas of health that affect virtually almost everyone: the immune system, the inflammatory response, the cardiovascular and arterial elasticity health, healthy digestive and gut enzymes, and hormone modulation. Now, I can tell you that those areas affect many, many pathways in the body. And just the hormone modulation affects many pathways in the body. And these are just some of them. They affect serotonin receptors and producing serotonin, which is what keeps you happy and in a great mood. Circadian rhythm, which is what allows you to sleep at night in a very deep restorative sleep. The NRF2 pathway, which is oxidative stress. This greatly lowers oxidative stress. This is our second study to prove that. Ovarian infertility genes. And I just was reading 2 or 3 testimonials of people who had not been successful in conceiving and started taking our redox molecules, and that's what happened. So very happy to hear that. Human thyroid stimulation, which was one of my issues, and it has definitely helped that. Insulin signaling, which affects a lot of people. So this helps your body get balanced in virtually every system of your body. So if you're not producing enough, this will pump up your body. Spinal cord injury, and many other things. So know that this product works and that it works on everyone. It has to. These are the molecules that your body makes that allows your body to heal. And no one can be allergic, and it can't hurt anyone. And so that's what I wanted to share with you to begin with. And I can tell you my 2 testimonials. I had virtually worn glasses since I was 12 years old. I was nearsighted. If I looked at a tree, it was a big green blur. Well, I started using this and spraying it all over my face and my eyes and in my throat, everywhere. And in a matter of, and I don't know when this happened, but when I realized it was a little over a year, that I could actually look out and see the leaves on trees, be able to read a very small menu on the television and things like that, which was incredible. And then I had a big patch of something that is scaly and red and itchy and affects people, and there's absolutely nothing in medicine for it. But that slowly started getting littler and littler, and disappeared finally. And again, that was a little over a year. We just had the drink when I started, so this is what I was doing, just drinking the redox signaling molecules. With that, I would like to go ahead and call on Miss Pauline Bowen, who lives in Maryland. She's been a dear friend. She got this. She worked at NIST in a very high, powerful job. And she was pretty healthy when she started, but I'll let her tell what happened afterwards.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'll try to go slow. In 2013, I had a surgical dental procedure done. And the dentist did not use any antibiotics before or after. So I developed a very serious skin issue. And it is some of the symptoms were my skin would just drop off. It'd fall off anywhere all the time. I'd go to bed and I'd wake up and I'd just be a mess. And then it would start. I was seeing 3 dermatologists and they were clueless. I even went to Johns Hopkins to get help and they were clueless. All they did was a biopsy. They didn't have anything to give me other than the bad stuff that you don't want. I finally got diagnosed by a dentist. A knowledgeable dentist told me what the problem was. And I had gone to lots of people. Anyway, it's a condition that you can get it by getting bacteria in your system. So there I was. Anyway, this condition kills 40% of the people that get it. They just don't live because they're not taken care of properly, unfortunately. But I had a SIA and I used it and it helped me tremendously. So one year I was hospitalized with it because it had gotten so bad. And I ended up in Debbie's mom's room and my face and my skin was so disfiguring that her daughter didn't recognize me and she knew me. And Debbie barely recognized me because it was that bad. It was just, I was unrecognizable, didn't look like me. Anyway, I want to tell you how much I drank. I drank 8 at least once a day, and sometimes I did it twice a day. So up to 16 ounces to get myself back to normal. And I gained my clear skin, as you can see. I'm me.
And it was bad. It actually causes death in many people, what she had. And she didn't look like herself. I was stunned when I found out it was her. I was like, Pauline, is that you? So I want you to know that she overcame this thanks to helping her body heal itself with redox. I'm next going to call on another dear friend from Maryland, Sharona Fuderman. And once she listened, she was able to have her own testimonial. So, Sharona.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, Brigitte. It's nice to see you again. We're partners on the Supercharge. Anyway, the last major one that I had testimonial is about 2 years ago when I was actually, Beverly and I were going to have a table at a health store. And I went to park the car. What happened was I tripped and fell and didn't realize it, but someone had to help me out and get me in the car. And it took us about an hour to get home. During that hour, Beverly had before that had to take off my boot because it was winter. And I tried to put the gel on my ankle with my left hand and noticed the pinky's broken. You could tell, I mean, it was in so much pain. So I left that alone. But in the car, I drank half a bottle of Cia and started putting the gel on. And I remember before we were getting home, Beverly asked me, do you want to go to the emergency room? And I just looked at her and laughed. I said, no, I have a Cia. This should work. And if it doesn't, then I'll go. Well, by the time we got home, I was able to walk up 17 steps of flights. This was on a Saturday. I stayed home and finished a whole bottle of Cia and that whole tube of Renew. It's the big tube, the regular tube of Renew. Just kept putting it on nonstop. So that was Saturday. Tuesday, I went to the doctor. He x-rays my foot and my pinky, and he comes back and says, okay, both are broken. And I said, really? The ankle is broken? He said, so he looked at me, looking at me really funny, you know, with his eyes looking down as if, what are you doing? And he asks me, how much pain medication are you on? And I looked at him, I said, nothing. I had the Renew in my hand. I said, I just put this gel on and I drink the molecules. And he just replied, keep, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And I had to buy this huge boot to wear. And he said, come back in 3 weeks. And I thought to myself as I walked out, I said, I'm going to do my own test here. I made the appointment for 2 weeks later and stayed home with my foot up for most of the day. I mean, I went out to the store, whatever I needed to do, I still did. But most of the time I was home, I used 1 gel a week and half a bottle of Cia every day because it was my right foot. So it was hard to drive and I wanted to go back to working out, which I just started a competition. And 17 days later, so 2 weeks later, I went back to the doctor, takes another x-ray. He goes, everything is healed. You can go back to doing whatever it was you were doing before. So total amount of days that I was pretty much out of commission was 17 days. Now I've met people who are months after a break and they're still hurting and they have issues. And when the weather changes, they have other issues. So just use a lot of it when something happens. Don't be afraid of it. It can't hurt you. Thanks. Bye.
And she doesn't look it, but she is slightly older. She looks very, very young. And so people that age don't heal very quickly at all.
And by the way, I have osteopenia, which is worse. I mean, 65, I was 63 then, which usually is harder for the bones to heal. So, or get better, I should say. Forget it, no healing, just getting better, improving. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So as I said, people her age don't heal that quickly, according to doctors, and this really speeded up that healing. 17 days is an incredibly short time, and we've had many of those testimonials. I'm next going to go to another very good friend, also in Maryland. She's a registered nurse, has been for many years at this point, and she's had incredible experiences with this also. Irene. Are you there? Yes, you are. I see you.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Irene Reyes, and I've been a nurse for 45 years. And my story begins in 2010. I was still in the United States Army at that time, and they were supposed to deploy me, and then they sent me back because I said I have my liver condition, and then they said that my numbers are up, and they cannot deploy me if I am quote unquote sick like that. So I was so scared, and then they said I had to submit myself for a biopsy.
Irene,
Yes, I'm sorry.
can you just slow down just a little bit?
Okay.
English is their second language.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. That's all right.
Thank you. And at that time, they did not deploy me because they said I have a liver condition. And when they checked my liver tests, the lab work was going up. And so they said that, and then they also told me that maybe you will be put out of the Army because of this. So I started to think that what else can I do? But at that time it was only 2010, so I just bought supplements. But thankfully in 2011 I found something, and that's when I found the SIA. And then so I started drinking, and then they said I have to be monitored every 6 months. So at some point my lab values were still going up, but then I decided I have to take more instead of just taking the usual dose of 2 ounces. And eventually when I got out, it was so stabilized like that. So after like 3 or 4 years, I'm now a veteran. So the veteran said, yeah, your liver tests are going up. So I said, I think we have to start you on medication. I said, no, I don't want to start any medication. You know why? Because if I start on a liver medication, eventually my liver will still get messed up. So I will still lose my liver. So and then I know that if you start on any medication like that, you will take it for life. So I said, to me, that is a life sentence, and I don't want it. So I pleaded with the doctor. I said, can you give me 6 months to bring it down? At that point in time, I said I was really serious about taking a CSO. Sometimes I would take like half a bottle to a bottle on the weekend, and I would do that and continuously for 6 months. When I came back and they said, we have to do another liver biopsy. So at that point, I really was praying very hard. So I said, okay. And then when the results came back, I came back with flying colors. At that point, they said there's no inflammation. And then my liver tests were already going down. So I was so happy. Can you imagine? Because they told me before, if I don't take the liver medication, they can be like these bad cells that will grow in my liver, and that will be most dangerous. So I said, but like I said, because of what I did with drinking a lot of ASEA and rubbing, when you gel on the rib cage, below the rib cage, and that's where you can actually feel the liver at that side, the right quadrant of the abdomen on the right side, below the liver, below the rib cage. So I was doing that day and night, whatever. So I just used up all the Reno that I have, and then just drink a lot of ASEA. And like I said, I came out with flying colors, and the final biopsy said no more liver inflammation. So I'm a happy camper. Thank you. And that's my story. The other one is I would like to share is about my dad. My dad is 98 years old, and he fell. When I was in the Army, we were separated, but then he started to live back with me in 2015. So I started him back on the ASEA regimen. And at 98, the worst fear that I could have is that if he falls, he will break stuff, break the hips, break the knee, break something. But thankfully, his body was probably so saturated with ASEA that when he fell, he just scraped his eyebrow, and then he scraped his right eye and and then scraped his left elbow and his left knee. And the doctor, when they took him to the ER, they said they have to do a CAT scan, and then the CAT scan results said that he had some bleeding in his brain, somewhere in his left eye. I said, okay. I told them that could be old, but the doctor said, no, we better have to do it again, because if it's really bleeding inside, then he has to stay overnight. I said, okay. But while I was at the ER, I had a tube of Renew. I couldn't give him anything to drink, but I just had a tube of Renew. So I started rubbing it on his face, wherever that is, right forehead, left forehead, on the cheek, wherever he, apparently fell. So I was doing that for like the 4 hours that I was there. We were doing that. So finally, when they took the second set of CAT scan, they said the cerebral blade is still the same. So like it was old because it did not like grow bigger on the CAT scan. So I said, okay. And then they sent us home. And thankfully they checked the spine, everything for broken bones. All the x-rays showed negative. So I said, thank God for ASEA. My dad's bone at 98 years old never got broken. Thank you very much. And end of the story.
Yes, thank you so much, Irene. And I remember that. And I know it's like Sirona. They either don't break or they heal very quickly. So we're very grateful that we found this. Next, we have another incredible testimonial from a doctor who was, I think, a little unsure to begin with, but once he found out what this really was and what it could do, now he's a big fan, and it has helped him and many members of his family incredibly. So, Dr. Ed de los Reyes.
Thank you. Yes, good day. I'm Ed de los Reyes, and I'm a licensed physician here in the U.S. since 1983 when I migrated from the Philippines. Good news, English is my second language too, but I can't promise I will talk not too fast though, but I will try. My story began in 2015 when suddenly I developed severe discomfort in my back after coming home from a long flight attending my son's wedding. And immediately I had an examination done and was immediately referred to a neurosurgeon. The neurosurgeon offered me a procedure, and which, according to him, should be done as soon as possible. But the procedure, I did not agree with it. And I am a pain management specialist. And most of my patients have this kind of procedure. That's why they are in my clinic, which most of them have failed. And you could understand my bias about it. My condition became more severe, and it took 6 more neurosurgeons and 6 more spine surgeons for consultations and second opinions to convince me to have it done. Having that kind of attitude, so I did my own research and went for the best one. So my surgeon was considered one of the best here in this nation, if not in the world, to do this kind of procedure. Why he's best? Because he has a 90% success rate. So unfortunately, after my surgery, I belong to the 10% failure rate in his own rating, and that didn't do good for me. I was immediately told that I could no longer go back to work, and I did not expect that will happen to me. So I insisted, and I said, between 2 physicians, can you just let me go back to work, and I will supervise myself in going back. And he allowed me to do that out of respect. And then I did, but I have to do a lot of adjustments. I have to use a device to help me walk. I have to be on 5 medications to help me functional. But even with those modalities, I'm still not able to sleep well at night. Every hour, my discomfort would wake me up. And that was my life. And every morning I go back to work, and I'm just fatigued. So every follow-up that I have, which is about every month and every 2 months, every 3 months, the second back procedure was offered. And I always said no. I didn't want it. I can do this on my own, until my yearly follow-up came up. At that time, I was already frustrated. I was already depressed. I was already discouraged. And just do whatever you want to do. Take whatever monster in my back that there is. And I agreed. So having a knowledge about those conditions of having multiple procedures, as I know the bigger possibility of being wheelchair bound once I have this one. So I retired, I prepared for it, and we scheduled that. Just within that period of time, when I agreed, I was also introduced to ASEA. And I was drinking 2 ounces in the morning and 2 ounces at nighttime. And I was one of the lucky ones that within just 5 days' time, I had the best experience I ever had, which is able to sleep for straight 4 hours. That was the best sleep I ever had in over a year after having my procedure done. So that was good, and I was ready to work. I was just my brain fog is gone. I have mental clarity and all these things, and my discomfort was coming down. And so this progressed so well that I was able to cancel my second procedure, and I was able to wean off myself from those medications that helped me become functional. And I was also able to discontinue the device that I was using to help me walk. So that was very I was so impressed with it, but I still did not give ASEA the full credit until I asked my mom to use it also. At that time, my mom had a brain condition, which which eliminated her speech. And this has been already 4 years into that condition. And she was in her 90s and not talking, not communicating. And then I tried to let her use this in just 2 weeks' time of just, again, using 2 ounces in the morning and 2 ounces at nighttime. She started talking again, first in words, then in sentences, then in full natural conversation that she would always do. This caught me by surprise. I could not explain it in my own traditional medicine on why it worked on a person having a brain insult for 4 years and could recover. This led me to be introduced to Dr. Gary Samuelson, the medical atomic physicist that stabilized these redox molecules. And after hours of talking and hours of talking, we became very close friends. But with these experiences, I'm just passionate about sharing it. And I still have one more family experience with my granddaughter. She accidentally grabbed a very hot tea and accidentally poured it on her lips, neck, and then chest. And of course, she screamed badly. And immediately, first and second layer of the skin was peeled off. And I remember at that time on how Renew 28 is very good for this condition. So I immediately applied it and then drove to the nearest children's hospital that we have, which is about an hour away from where I live. And in just 30 minutes after going into the hospital, my 18-month-old granddaughter started playing again. And as a pediatrician in Bahas, I know that she's already having no pain, being that she's back on herself. And when we reached the emergency room, she was tolerating the cleaning of her skin very well. But what is most amazing is that in just a month's time, her skin completely recovered, no scar tissues, and no skin discoloration, even if how heavily pigmented she was. So this experiences that I have on my own, plus many more, really made me so passionate about sharing this to as many people as I could, especially those people that has not been helped with traditional medicine, just like myself and my mom. So thank you for inviting me in your platform to be able to tell my story. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ed, for being available again. And those are incredible stories, just like everyone's on here. And now I hope people can start hearing the power of this. And it's wonderful when doctors start to realize how incredible this is, and nurses and other medical people, because, you know, you just don't see things like that normally. And that was one of my most powerful experiences for me, is when I went with a doctor up to Canada. He had gotten in this on a man who had, you know, the shaking and the all the problems that come with a particular disease. He couldn't walk anymore. He couldn't speak. He couldn't. I mean, he could speak. He couldn't smile and stuff. And when we went, he was completely doing all those things. And when I was jumping up and down after we got out of the house with a complete change in this man in a month's time, the doctor was just ashen gray. And I just looked and I said, "What is wrong, Dr. Nitzer?" And he said, "Debbie, you just don't understand. Doctors just don't see things like this." And that struck me, and it will be with me the rest of my life, because these molecules are so incredible, and we haven't had them until just recently in the last 10 years. Doctors really haven't seen the body be able to heal itself and turn around things so incredibly. So, Pia, I don't know if you would like to end this now, and if we ask questions, I should probably turn off the recording. So it's up to you. You are the leader.
Yeah. If you turn off the recording.
Okay.